Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, this fantastic Tuesday night. And before we get into our guest tonight, I have to make it a bit of an apology. I meant to do this on Monday, and that was talking about a gallery that's coming out to Mega's Books. That's going to be happening this Saturday, the 13th, and it's called The Sleeping Chamber by Michelle Lancy. And what this is, Michelle has taken photos of all sorts of cemeteries and burial grounds around the world, and they're beautiful. And I think that these are just some absolutely stunning photography. This is going to be happening over at Mega's Books at 3:30 p.m. this Saturday, January 13th. Please come out, check it out. Please support your local businesses, as Vegas is very much has been a very proud sponsor of this show. We'd really appreciate it. Speaking of local businesses, I got a story to tell. You know, I'm going to keep it brief, okay? But I went over to Roseville a few weeks ago, and I went over to Mavericks, which you've heard me talk about how much I love their roast beef sandwiches. And then I saw this place next door. I've seen it many times. I never walked in there, and it's called Mr. Zero's. And I thought, well, you know what? I want to check it out. I wanted to see if there's a way that we could collaborate together, because I'm sort of into that kind of stuff as well. And I went in and I saw Mr. Zero himself behind the counter, and what I thought was going to be 15 minutes or so of just a quick conversation. I think I spent about 2.5, 3 hours there, if I'm not mistaken. It was a long conversation. It was a great conversation. But one of the things I wanted to do was bring in Mr. Zero, because we have so many things that we like. I think that there's a lot of things that we'll be talking about tonight that you're going to like. And, the store itself is pop culture, as I've read it, but it's so much more. And I wanted to bring in Mr. Zero to talk about it. Mr. Zero, welcome to GhostBox Radio.
Here I am, and here we are, and welcome to the show.
And so here's the thing: you have to be in studio. I see that you needed to come out here. Normally,
yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Is it because you needed to be in my presence?
Yes. I am humbled in your magnificence.
That's right. There's a lot of magnificence at AM 950. So here we go. First of all,
you want the truth to that?
No, I don't.
I have an ego, or I would not be in the entertainment business, and it is my goal to be on as many radio stations and in studio as possible.
Now, do you have a booklet that you keep that you kind of check it all off?
Right up here,
up in the old noggin, huh?
You want the list?
No. So why don't you tell us what the store is about, first of all? Because I've had a lot of people, and I ask me about it. And here's the thing: I could tell them about what interests me about the store, but that's only part of it. And there are three things that you and I clearly have the love for. I know you have a love for pretty much everything, it seems like, but three things that I'm going to say that immediately connected us was the Beatles,
yes,
the Monkees,
yes,
and Doctor Who.
Yes.
So, and there's more, but those are the three that really.
I want to clarify on Doctor Who.
Please do.
Tom Baker, that era only. And what was her name? Leela?
Yep.
Yeah. That was a big crush of mine in 1978, watching her on PBS.
You and many others, from what I understand. Absolutely. So tell us about Mr. Zero's off of Lexington in Roseville. You're in Larpenteur?
Larpenteur and Lexington.
I said
corner.
Lexington.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I was half right.
Well, no, I was just saying the cross street because they always ask for the cross street.
Always crossroads.
Yeah. So the deal is, I was working for a different company in Minneapolis in up to 2008 into 2009, and we did a lot of reports, and the reports were showing that CD sales were somewhat declining and record sales were increasing. And I was talking to the owner, and I said, we need to get ahead of this, open a second store in St. Paul and clear out this warehouse of vinyl. He did not agree. And he said, well, why don't you go out and do this on your own? And I said, okay. But he gave me an idea to come up with an icon and a name. And I thought about it long and hard. And I'd done a fair amount of advertising. And what I came up with was we wanted a name. It was kind of nondescript. And so I went to the Monkees, one of my favorites.
Yep.
Episode 52, Devil and Peter Tork. Mr. Zero ran a pawn shop. And I said, that's kind of a cool name. And I wanted something like the Joker without infringing on DC. And miraculously, a friend of mine knew Angel Medina, who did Kiss Psycho Circus comics. Yeah. And we'll touch on this later, but I am in the Kiss tribute band Kiss in Time for over 10 years now. We'll come back to that. So when I was talking to Angel, I noticed the desk next to him had a Yellow Submarine poster. And there's a gentleman sitting there kind of doodling away. And I said, hey, is this your work? And he goes, yeah, it was my second job. And I go, well, what was your first job? And he goes, Monkees Comics. And I said, oh, you're kidding me. And he said, no. And I said, hey, I got this store and we're looking for this icon, and Yellow Submarine is my favorite artwork. And, could you draw a character for us? And he said, no, I don't do that. And I said, oh, okay, no problem. Mm-hmm. I wasn't offended.
Yeah.
And I was just waiting for Angel to finish this drawing for me. And the guy's daughter came out and started yelling at him in Italian. She was asking him what he wanted for lunch, and they're going back and forth. And he's like, do they have this? And do they have that? No. How about this? No. And then I used to date an Italian from Naples, Italy many years ago. So I understand Italian. And it was a knee-jerk reaction. I just hit the table, mangiamo, which means eat now. And it's kind of a slang. It's not proper. No. And he looks at me and he goes, where are you from? And I don't know why I picked this. I just said Argentina, I guess from a Monkees episode. And he goes, no, you're not. And I go, why am I not? And he goes, because I'm from Argentina. And I said, oh, and he goes, but why do you speak Italian with a Spanish accent? And I said, I used to date a gal from Napoli. And he goes, that's always the case. What did you want? And I said, I explained it to him again. He goes, yeah. And he throws $1 amount at me. And I was like, holy. And I said, wait a minute, this is once. I said, sure, whatever you want, just do it. And he goes, what if you don't like it? I said, I'll love it. And he scribbled it out in less than 10 minutes and he handed it to me, and it took my breath away.
Yeah.
And that's it, And I told my family, I said, when I die, that's the only thing I want on my tombstone is the Mr. Zero character.
So why don't you go look at the camera and make sure everyone can see it there.
Can they see
you go.
this?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. That's and for those who are listening on radio, just got to go to Mr. Zero's.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Yeah, you'll see it all over the place, and including my shirt. And I'm sorry, no, we're out of them right now. We're trying to get some made.
And you still came on the show. Okay.
Yeah. So when we opened, I just wanted to be a record store, CDs and records, but I knew we weren't going to make it doing that because I'd seen so many fail over the years. And I had a lot of silent partners, and one of them was a big video game guy. And he's like, dude, we got to have video games. And I go, yeah, they make a lot of money. And my lawyer that was handling some of the paperwork for us said, hey, can you do me a favor and sell off my toy collection? And I go, sure, I don't care. So we threw it up on the wall, and amazingly, it did great. And I said, well, I think we got to add toys. And I'm also a big movie buff. I wrote a movie column for about 2 years called Lost My Stub, I think it was called. Mm-hmm. And so what is Mr. Zero's? It is vinyl records. It is CDs. It is cassettes. It is 8-tracks and reel-to-reels. It is Nintendo and Sega and Xbox and PlayStation and Atari. It is VHS and DVDs and laser discs. We have some vintage shirts, and we have vintage toys in the package and out of the package.
Yep.
Now, I have to clarify, Greg.
Yes, please do.
And listeners, please pay attention. We do not carry comics. We do not carry sports, smoking paraphernalia, or anything else like that. There are many other places that carry those things, and that's why we don't do them.
It's funny when you said we don't carry comics. You made it almost sound like the comic book guy from The Simpsons. When we don't carry comics.
You know. Trivia time. What's his name?
I know that he had one.
Yes,
but I don't remember.
Jeff Albertson.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Because when we opened, somebody gave me a Simpsons comic book guy toy where he's in his little shop. And they said, and at that time I was a little heavier. And they said, so you got the belly and the ponytail. And it says, it's you. So when my son was born, I bought one in a box and I saved it for him for when I get older. And so my favorite quote by the comic book guy, worst apocalypse ever.
I've been going through those episodes and I've been enjoying, even everyone's like, oh, even the later ones are so bad. I don't think so. I think the whole series is wonderful in many different ways. I got some comics. I got some comments for you.
Oh, okay.
There's people loving you. Let's see. Brad is saying toys and collectibles are always great sellers. Us nerds love them. Chuck, who lives out on the East Coast, says that I need a Mr. Zero's near me. Do you ship stuff out?
We do. Sad but true. We've had some horrific tragedies over the last few years, and my partner who ran the online aspect of it shut it down in May. And so we got to restart that. But you can call the store, and if we do have things, we will ship them out of the store. That's not a problem. We just don't have an and our mainframe computer crashed last year in July.
Of course it did.
So we don't have a database. But East Coast, forget about it. Listen, was it Chuck you said?
Chuck? It was Chuck.
On the East Coast, listen, man, if I didn't have a son here in Minnesota, I'd be back in New York in a heartbeat. Forget about it.
Yep. So, okay, what you have at the store, how much of it is up here, like in your head? If someone asks something, is it pretty good for you to just be like, no, we don't have it? Okay,
you can't ask Mr. Zero and not get an answer. In 2012,
yes,
my ex, who was in the Porter Wagner show at the Grand Ole Opry, her and I were no longer together, but she saw a show with Mary Lou Henner on the 10 best memories in the world. So she called me and she said, hey, there's this show and they're looking for people with great memories. And she goes, I want to get you on it. And at that time, I was having a little bit of sinus infection and migraines and so forth. And I said, man, I am just not at my best. So unbeknownst to me, this dude walks in one day, like on a Wednesday, and he's asking me questions. And I had some answers for him. And he was asking me about like Frisbees and Wheelos and whammo and things like that. And then he says, you think you got a good memory? And I go, I got a great memory. And he said, oh, really? He said, do you want to play a game? I said, yeah, sure. So he pulls a deck of cards out of his pocket, sealed.
Mm-hmm.
He opens them up, pulls out the 2 jokers and puts them off to the side, pulls out the 4 aces, puts them off to the side, hands me the other 48 and says, do whatever you want, shuffle, cut, blah, 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 blah. I hand them back to him. He shuffles, cuts, blah, 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 blah. And he said, are you ready to play the game? And I said, yeah, sure. And he fans the 48 in front of me for me to see. And then he says, are you ready? I go, yeah. And he fans him again. And he goes, let's begin. And he put down a red ace and a black ace, cut the deck in half, 24 and 24. And he holds up a card that I can only see the back. And he says, you need to tell me if it's red or black. And went through the first 24 and he stops and he goes, where's the camera? And I said, well, it faces you, so I can't see the card. And he took his glasses off and he goes, I don't know how you're doing this, dude, but okay, next 12 or the next 24. So we went through the next 12 and he stops and he says, all right, I don't know what's going on here, but now you have to tell me the suit. So the last 12, I had to tell him the suit. And when we got to the end, he said, well, how do you think you did? And I said, yeah, pretty good. And he goes, I'm going to tell you the highest score ever recorded is 44 out of 48 correct. I go, okay. He says, what do you think you did? I said, 44. And he goes, absolute. He said, you got 48 out of 48. It's the highest score ever recorded. And I go, yeah. And he goes, you're not surprised? And I said, no, not really. And he says, can I ask you how you do it? And I said, well, it's a weird thing. I will look at an area and kind of zone out, and my brain takes a picture and puts it in a mental Rolodex. When somebody asks me a question, I go through that Rolodex, pull up that picture, and then in my brain, I scan the picture, and that's how I remember things. And he said, it's amazing. And I knew what happened. So I called her up, and she's back in Tennessee. And I said, yeah, well, I took your test. And she goes, how'd you do? I said, 48 out of 48, highest score ever. And she goes, are we going to go to the casino? I said, no. And I hung up on her.
Oh, well, that's funny, because I was just going to ask when we're heading to Mystic. Why don't, Mr. Zero, why don't we do this? We're going to go ahead. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to, I want to talk Monkees when we come back and other fun things. Plus, folks, put your comments in Facebook so that I can read them to Mr. Zero. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned, community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstonempls.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. And welcome back to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. I have in studio with me tonight Mr. Zero. He has this pretty amazing store over on the crossroads of Larpenteur and Lexington.
Yeah, it's very good.
It takes 4 to 5 times, but I get there eventually.
That was only 2. You get a gold star.
Not everybody can go through a deck of cards like that and get 48 out of 48. All right.
Apparently, there was just me.
Literally, right?
Yeah.
Going over to the comment section, it's folks, I think it's fun not to always talk paranormal, and when you find interesting people, you got to bring them on. And Lynette says that she loves the Monkees. She's just went to your site and looked at the store. She said it looks amazing, first of all.
Well, thank you, Lynette.
And Lynette, I don't remember if you're local or not. And folks, do me a favor, if you have any contact with Mr. Zero and you heard about him first through our show, can you just let him know that, just so he knows that coming out all this way tonight was worth his while?
That's Greg. It was worth my while just to sit here.
Right. Let's see. Lynette also said she just listened to the 2016 Monkee album Good Time CD. It's so good. It is good. Yeah,
Love to Love is on there from 69.
Yeah, no, it was really it's pretty amazing. The one thing that I've always been not confused about, but always shrugged my shoulders about is Mike Nesmith is probably my favorite of the Monkees, but at the same time he frustrates me a little bit because he's always had 1 foot out, 1 foot in, basically, and for a while it looked like both feet were out.
Yeah. Oh, decades. Yeah. In his office at Pacific Arts, there was a plaque that said "No Monkees jokes."
I believe it.
Yeah. True story. I knew a guy that worked there. Jim Cohen worked there, and he told me about it.
It seems like that at least when it comes to Good Times, that Davy Jones' death had some sort of impact to kind of get Mike back in. Would I be correct with that, or is that?
You want the straight dope, as they say?
This show's nothing but straight dope. So
Nesmith and Jones did not get along.
I never knew that, actually.
Yeah. And crazy trivia, Nesmith and Jones have the same birthday, but Jones was raised by his father and Nesmith was raised by his mother. Mm-hmm. Those two, the mother and the father of the respective Monkees, they have the same birthday.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. So what happened was Nesmith wanted out and he wanted no part of it, the Monkees, and he just shed himself of it. And then 86, it exploded. And they had 9 albums on the Billboard charts, and they toured for a year and a half, and things were going great. And Nez came back for 1 show and stole the show, and Jones didn't like that. And he said, "Look, I'm the one that has carried the banner all these years while you were distancing yourself, and now you come back and you want to steal the glory." And Jones had a problem with it, and so those two really didn't get along. And then they did a full-blown reunion in 97 where they did a television show, a documentary, and they did a made-for-TV movie with different actors portraying them. And then they went on a British tour. And when they came back, the insider word was Nesmith said, "I don't ever want to work with those guys again." And then he listed his reasons, which I'm not going to say. And then when Jones died, Nesmith saw, okay, now I can take control of this ship. And Torque, he was, I just saw an interview with his former manager, and she said You can look it up on YouTube, folks. I'm quoting this from about a couple hours ago. He was very hard to work with. So Torque was, he wasn't working as much as he'd like to. So he was ready to be on board. And Mickey and Mike always got along. They worked together outside of the Monkees, after the Monkees. So that's, with Jones not being at the helm, Nesmith took the helm.
It's interesting because I remember, you know, how we do these YouTube, just like one video after another in the same sort of subject. I was watching a bunch of interviews with Mickey and Mike after Peter had died. And so I didn't know about the Davey and Mike thing, but Mike said in the interview, and it was with like, it was some Australian interview or a British interview. And he's like, you know, Peter and I just never saw eye to eye. And then he breaks down and starts to cry. And he's like, I don't know why I'm crying now. I guess I really do miss him. And it was really kind of a surreal moment.
Well, Nez knew Torque from before the Monkees. They played the same places out in L.A., Troubadour and things like that.
Yeah.
And Nez didn't care for him. And I think Nez was he was on a mission. He had a goal. You know, he utilized his time and money in the Monkees to better his situation. If he wasn't filming, he was in the studio recording. 67 songs, I think he did, of his own.
Yep.
And Torque was more of a hippie. And Torque left in December of 68. And Mike was like, good riddance. And I saw an interview with Nesmith right after Torque died. And he said, you know, I hated that guy, but I broke down crying when he died.
Yeah.
And, you know, the one thing I'd like to really clarify, I was not there. I do not know these guys.
Right.
I've met them. I've met them several times. And I even did I did a job for Jones, and I filmed a segment with VH1 with Jones, and I helped Mickey track down some of his singles for him after his divorce. But I don't know those guys, and I didn't meet, and I wasn't there. And having, like I mentioned a little bit ago, I'm in a band called Kissin' Time, and we've gone through our fair share of members, and there's reasons why some of those guys aren't with us today. You know, it's still in the band.
Yep.
Because when you know somebody, there's a different dynamic. And like you and I, we're looking at the Monkees from the outside in.
Yep.
We don't know.
Yep.
So.
Nope. Makes a lot of sense. Now, Lynette also says, and this is kind of, you and I have talked about this before. And it makes me very upset, actually. I saw Mickey and Mike at their last concert in Minneapolis right before Mike passed away. And you and I talked about this at your store. And that led to another story that I found very fascinating. I wish it worked out better for you, but how you were getting autographs of the Monkees.
Yeah. So many years ago, I got a hold of a 66 Vox Lynx. It's a guitar. And when the Monkees started in 65, Vox was an endorser, and through a friend, Mike Bush in Chicago, I got Jones to autograph this guitar, and also through the same friend, I got Boyce and Hart to autograph the back of the guitar. And only about a year or so later, I got Mickey to sign the front, and a couple of years after that, Peter to sign it. And when I pulled it out, Peter looked at this and he goes, "Oh, that's really cool." He goes, "Is this yours?" And I go, "Well, of course it is." And he goes, "Oh," and he signed his name. And I said, "Could I get you to write this song title that you wrote?" And he goes, and he got really upset. He's like, "Look, I'm not sure." Okay, fine. And he wrote it. Peter was a hard guy to get along with. I'd met him many, many times, and he was a hard guy to get along with. Although the last few times I met him, it went very well. But the first few times he was tough, and so I only had Nesmith left, and I can't tell you how many times I dragged this guitar to a show to try and get it signed to no avail. And I remember we were in St. Paul, and I can't remember the place that they played that Nesmith played in St. Paul, but my friend DJ Liberty from KFAI, who got me in radio, I have to give a shout out to Liberty and Izzy. We were talking after the show. I went one way, she went the other, and ran right into Nez and spent like a few minutes talking to him. And I'm like, you're kidding me. I'm dragging this stupid thing around and I can't get to him. And he would do these meet and greet sales at like 2 to 3 in the morning to get the hardcore fans. He was pretty smart about it. I don't know that he himself did it, but his people. And I don't know. I remember I was standing outside of State one time holding the thing, and his son Christian walks out and have a cigarette, and he's smoking, and he looks at me and he goes, "You want my dad to sign that?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "You better put that camera away." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "He hates cameras. He hates photos." He said, "Put that camera away, and if he comes out, he'll sign it." And I said, "No kidding." So we hid the camera. He didn't come out. Well, the last time, the show that you mentioned was with November. I just found the poster for that. Last night I have it. My significant other at the time was from East Germany, and she went with me, and she really knew nothing about the Monkees. She just went because I wanted to go. And we're sitting there, and the music really isn't her kind of thing. And I'm sitting there with the guitar, and she looks at me and she says, "Give me that thing." And I go, "What?" She goes, "I'm going to go get this signed." So she went to the management of the venue. Where were they at? State or Orpheum?
They're at State, yeah.
And she went to the management, and she bent the truth. She go, it was the truth, but it wasn't. She's like, "I'm from Germany, and I'm here to get this signed."
That's true.
It's true.
Yeah.
She didn't, they didn't ask, "When did you get here?"
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, they're not Interpol. So,
right. So they said, "Oh, well, let's go talk." So the management of the State took her to the management of Nesmith, and she says, "I'm from Germany. I'm here to get this signed. You can see that I have 5 other autographs. I only need 1 more, and here I am." And they said, "Yeah, come on over here." After the show, she comes and gets me, and she goes, "Come on, we got to go wait over here." And I go, "For what?" And she goes, "You'll see." And we're standing there, and I said, "What's going on?" She goes, "Well, we're waiting for the management." And I go, "Whose management?" She goes, "Nesmith's management." I said, "You're kidding me." And she goes, "No, I went straight to the top. I ain't fooling around." So we waited for, I don't know, half hour or so. And then the management came over. It was just us 2 standing there. And the management came over and they said, "We're very sorry. Michael will not do any autographs. He's not signing for anybody because of the health scare. He's just not meeting people. And we're sorry, but we did everything we could." And she goes, "Okay, thanks." And we walked outside, and she saw the bass player for the band. She walks right up to him. She goes, "I'm from Germany, and I'm here to get this signed." And he's like, "Wow, I wish I could help, but Nez won't even sign for me." And while she's talking to him, I happen to turn, and these 2 buses kind of like parted for about 6-8 feet. And I look up, and Nesmith walks off the bus with 2 bodyguards. And he's closer to you than me right now. And I just hold it up and I go, "Mike." And he waves to me and he goes, "Nope." And then the guards took him the other way. And we were standing there, and I'm just like, I am this darn close. And I can't. And I says, and on the way home, I looked at her and I said, "He does not have long." And she goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "He does not have long."
No.
And we were on our way to Des Moines. Again, I'm in Kissin' Time. We were doing a show in Des Moines at a famous place down there called Woolies. And as we're driving down, my phone is blowing up. Nesmith died, Nesmith died, Nesmith died, Nesmith died. And the guitar player in my band, Star Child, JP, calls me and he goes, all it says is, "Your guitar!" ! And I go, "Yeah." So that's one of the many reasons that woman's getting into heaven. Though we're not together anymore, she was one of the most wonderful things that happened to me besides my son, which I have to give a shout out to my little boy,
sure,
Oblion. He's not listening, but I hope to get a recording of this, and someday he'll hear it.
Very few are, so he's not alone. So
there's a boost for your ego.
So it's not a reflection of you. It's more of the show. But and there's so many moments during that story you just told that's like could have had a Cinderella moment.
Yeah.
I thought that the story but then the buses came across and there's Mike, and I'm like, well, here's what's going to happen.
You should have been there. It was devastating.
Well, and that's the thing that I'm really upset about. When Lynette said that she was at that concert, and you and I talked about that too, is that I wanted to go, but I didn't have anyone to go with. I didn't know anyone who was Monkee fans, and so
shame on you. I've gone to millions of shows by myself.
I know, and I just and I'm lazy at the heart of it. I'm lazy, but I knew that
that's hardly an excuse.
Like you and I had said before. Also, I knew that this was going to be it for Mike.
Yeah, he was terminally ill. He didn't want to tell anybody. I even emailed his son, Christian, who I'd met before.
Yeah.
I'd met his daughter, too, Jessica. Same thing. I went to Jessica, and I'm like, here's a Mr. Zero shirt for your dad. Your dad likes the Beatles, blah, 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 blah. And I start to pull out. She goes, I cannot get you an autograph. I met his daughter twice.
Are they just talking about you behind your back? It's like his name's Mr. Zero. He wants this guitar signed. Let's not give it to him.
I don't know about that, but I can tell you for sure in Kansas City, I met the Monkees. They were doing a signing in was it Lawrence or something like that. And then that night they played Bonner Springs, and we went to Bonner Springs. And as we walked through the door, Jones saw me walk in, and he said to Peter, that's the guy I've been telling you about.
Wow.
And Torque walks right up to me and says, how many is it going to take? And I go, excuse me? And he goes, I'm going to stand here and sign till I never have to see you again. And I go, I think one will suffice, Pete. And he goes, Peter. And I said, you got it, Pete. So
that is awesome.
But at the same time, I did a job for Jones. I want to say it was about 92. This friend of mine was friends of his sister's, and she called me on a Friday night, and she says, hey, Jones wants a list of all his writing, performing, and producing credits faxed to his hotel in the morning. And I said, it's Friday night, right? And I got to work tomorrow morning. And she goes, you want this done or not? And I said, well, what's he reimbursing me with? What's my remuneration? She said, what do you want? And I said, I want a minimum 30-minute interview with him. And she said, I'll see what I can do. So I worked all through the night, got this ready, faxed it off to his hotel in the morning. And then I met him in Kansas City, and he didn't want to do the interview. He wanted to see the questions first. And he said, I don't want to talk about that, which I was more curious about the 1969, 1970 period, because the first 3 years are well documented. I want to talk about the rest. He says, I don't want to talk about that. And then I was trying to get a job. I was working for Warehouse Entertainment, and I was trying to get a job with a record label, specifically Warner Brothers and Rhino Records, in the reissue department. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to one of the guys there, and it had been going well for a while. And then all of a sudden I got the cold shoulder. And I found out later the reason I got the cold shoulder is because that work that I faxed into Jones was used in the deposition for him suing the record label.
Oh my God.
So they had my name on the deposition, and they're like, this is that guy that's helping him sue. Get rid of him.
Yeah. Horrible.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we go ahead and do this? We're going to go ahead, take our next break. When we come back, we're going to switch things up maybe a little bit. We're going to talk about the radio shows that Mr. Zero does and your questions. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. It's that time of year where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lily Putt is open for the season, and you know what that means. Lily Putt is known for its mini golf, go-karts, glow golf, jump pads, kitty carts, gem mining, and even a new arcade. Lily Putt also has interactive and engaging escape rooms like the Haunted Mansion, the Bunker, or Night of the Wolf. Lily Putt is perfect for parties and group events. Stop by lilyputt.net for more information and hours of operation. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursions to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. And join us tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We're going to have on evidential medium Debbie Romero. She's going to be on doing one-question readings for us tomorrow evening. I love it when we bring on mediums and we are able to do these one-question because I feel like everyone gets so much out of it. That's going to be tomorrow. I've not had Debbie on before, and what I've seen of her, because she does her own Facebook Lives and she does her own shows, that she's pretty gifted, and I'm really looking forward to having some time with her, and hopefully you all can take part and submit, as always, your questions via phone, or also you can do so in the comment section as well. Thursday and Friday, I'm not going to be on Thursday. We're going to replay an episode with Miranda Young talking about the historic Scott County Jail. And then on Friday, it's going to be a replay of a Casual Friday from October. But we are talking with Mr. Zero, who has a shop over in off of Larpenteur in Lexington and Roseville. And Mr. Zero, what is the URL? What's the website address?
www.mrzeros, that's plural, but no apostrophe.com. Hey, Greg, I got a question for Debbie that you can ask her tomorrow.
You can call in and ask.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be with my son, and he's 4, so I won't. That's going to be tough.
What's he up at 10 p.m.?
No, well, it's not supposed to be.
Here's the thing: you don't ever want to listen to my show unless you're on it.
No. I've been plugging this show. My question for Debbie is: you can ask if she's a medium for the Beyond. Ask Nesmith why he didn't sign my guitar.
That's a good question.
We'll see how gifted she is.
Well, I mean, if she comes back with an answer of sarcasm, it's certainly him.
Yeah.
So now you have. Do you have one or two radio shows?
Currently just one. I have the Psycho Jello show. The name came from Michael Nesmith, Episode 58, Nesmith says, and I quote, "Oh yeah, that Psycho Jello stuff that everybody's talking about." So when WDGY came to me and said, well, it's really New Victoria Productions. They said, "We want a vinyl show, but you need a name for your show." And I go, "Psycho Jello." And they're like, "What's that?" And I said, "From the Monkees." And they go, "You got anything else?" And I said, "That's the name."
Yeah.
And so I've been on WDGY Sundays, 8 a.m. since June of 2017. Just turned in episode 272. That's nothing for a guy like you that's every night. I mean, what are you at, like 5,000?
No, just about 10,000. No, I don't know how many I have. I mean, one loses count after a while. It's audacious to keep counting, of course. But so what's the next episode?
This Sunday is Solo Monkees Hits. I just turned it in tonight.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The Psycho, it's really like all things, Mr. Zero has a long answer. Back in 1990, I met Bobby Hart, the songwriter, through a friend of mine named John Jane, worked for Joel Whitburn's Billboard Books. And this is before the internet and all that kind of thing. And John said, "Hey man, are you ever going to meet Bobby Hart?" And I said, "I'm supposed to meet him in Chicago in about a month." He says, "Ask him for this single, Lovers for the Night." I said, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, I'm part of Joel Whitburn's library. I'm the historian, and we have one of the singles for every entry in the books. And I can't find that one." And I said, "Oh, yeah, all right, I'll ask him." Well, I did meet him in Chicago, and I says, "Hey, Bobby, this guy I know, John Jane, works for Joel Whitburn, but we need this record." And he goes, "Yeah, I'll send you one." And I became acquaintances with Bobby Hart. And when I got back I lived in Des Moines at the time. When I got back to Des Moines, I was thinking about, John gave me he educated me on hits versus popularity. And the thing was, it had to be on a single to be played on, to be a hit on the radio. And a song like Stairway to Heaven, it is popular, but it was never a single, so it was never a hit. So I really delved into that. And then I was thinking about it, and looked up Boyce and Hart, and they had 4 top 40 hits. And I thought, man, people don't realize this. So I went to the local legend DJ in Des Moines, Dick Young's, on KIOA, and I said, "Dick, I want to do an hour-long show on Boyce and Hart." And I said, "What do I do?" And he says, "First, you get a producer." And I said, "Well, I don't have a producer." And he goes, "Then you can't do the show. The FCC won't allow you to play more than 2 songs by one artist in one single hour. Thank Dick Clark and Alan Freed." So I had this idea back in 92. And in 2012, KFAI DJs Izzy and Liberty Finch called me and said, "Hey, do you want to guest on our show?" I said, "Absolutely." They said, "Do you have an idea?" I said, "I do." And I told them, I said, "I'm doing 2-hour show on the Monkees." And they said, "You can't do it." And I said, "The FCC?" And they go, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, fine." So jump ahead to 2017, New Victoria Productions on WDGY came in, and they said, "We're looking for someone to make a show." And I said, "I have an idea." And they go, "Well, I'm the producer, so you can do whatever you want." And I said, "I have it." And I ran down to this studio. It was called Wishing Star. And we cranked out a 35-minute demo, and I turned it, was Monkees, of course. And I turned it in. I just reran the show on the website under podcast. So if you want to hear the first show, you can go hear it.
And where do we hear that at?
MrZeros.com.
So it's all there.
On the podcast.
Got it.
It's probably like the third one down, the very first show, the demo that I did for WDGY. I turned it in, and they're like, "Yeah, this is a pretty good idea." And they've kept me. But from that, I went to WFNU, and I created this buddy of mine, Tommy Summers, famous photographer in town and realtor. He said, "Man," he's like, we're eating lunch one day, and he says, "If there's a way around that FCC rule, you're the guy." And I said, "Tommy, the law is the law. You're going to get fined. The station will get fined. I'll never, they won't touch me. I'll get blacklisted." And he goes, "There's got to be a way." And one night in March, me and my then girlfriend were having a disagreement. So I was up all night stewing about it. And I went, "Whoa, wait a minute." So I called my buddy Izzy at KFAI, and I said, "Book me a show, 2 hours." And he goes, "What do you got?" And I said, "I can't tell you." And he goes, "Why?" And I go, "Dude, just trust me." So I went in, and he says, "Okay, what's the big secret?" And I said, we're going to do a 2 hours Monkee show. And he looks at me, he goes, you know the law? And I said, this will fall within the law. So how we did it was Monkees, Nesmith, Solo, Jones, Torque, Dolenz, Jones, Boyce and Hart, a cover tune, Harry Nilsson, repeat 4 times through the 2 hours. And he's like, this is brilliant. I said, yeah, I know. And he goes, how'd you think of this? And I go, I've been thinking about it for 20 years, so. So WFNU loved it, and they ran 32 episodes of. I created the name called Evilation. So I was on WFNU for 3 different shows for a few years, but currently I'm just at WDGY. I'm trying to get one on WVIC called Cover Up, where I take one artist and I do covers of that artist by other artists, and they liked it, but they haven't picked it up yet.
So the recent programs, are they available also on Mr. Zero?
Yeah, the last 90 are.
Nice. And it's because did you not say so you just delivered the one about the Monkee solo. The week previous was Beatles solo,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. Now, who do you? And maybe this is I hate it when people ask me these questions. But I'm going to ask you: do you have a favorite between Beatles and Monkees?
Yeah, I never liked that answer. I remember I used to write a column for a Monkees fanzine, and I remember a young lady wrote me and asked me, this is before the internet, she said, who's your favorite? And I was really put off by that question, but I didn't want to offend her, so I thought about it long and hard, and I said, I like each one for different reasons.
Yeah.
And so you asked me about Beatles.
Yeah.
You want to talk about paranormal? There's a paranormal show. I swear to God, this happened. And it's happened this weekend. George's birthday's next month, so I'm working on a George show. And I was ODing on George Sunday. Just delving into his catalog, ready to do another show. And this woman comes in and she says, do you buy magazines? I said, no. She goes, well, I got these magazines. And I said, well, you can leave them here if you want. And she goes, well, I got a couple books. And I said, well, let me see the books. And there was like 5 books. And the third one in was a brand spanking new George Harrison songbook in tab, hardly been opened. And I said, yes, that's paranormal.
That is paranormal. I love it.
And I said, yes, I will buy this from you. So I would have to say Beatles. My favorite is George. I always like George. Mainly his songs like Long, Long, Long and I Want to Tell You. And
his personality really comes through in his songwriting.
Yeah. Well, he wrote very personal things. Like Taxman was because he was upset he had to pay 50% taxes in England.
Right.
And he called out, Harold Wilson, and I can't think of the other guy, Heath, but Harold Wilson for sure. He called him out.
He did.
Like taxing me. And I guess for a long time, no, I would say Ringo, because I love songs like Photograph and Back Off Boogaloo.
Yeah.
And I liked Lennon for a long time until I read about him, and he wasn't such a nice guy sometimes.
Did you and I discuss the fact, because I know you mentioned that you saw McCartney in Ames, Iowa,
90,
and I was at that concert as well. I don't remember if we talked about that or not.
Not much.
No. I mean, there's not much to talk about other than I was also there, but I was on the grassy knoll because we couldn't afford seats, and the grass standing room only was the only place.
Wow, I don't remember that. Do you remember the banners where they're flying around?
Oh yeah,
like the farmers were like flying the banners around.
That's right.
And during the show, McCartney goes, "Hey, listen, we hear you upset that we don't eat cows, but we love corn."
Oh, that was great. I mean, I know a lot of McCartney fans don't really care for them. I'm a huge Flower in the Dirt album fan.
Put it there. Me and my dad, we didn't get along for a long time. And that came out in 89.
Yep.
And I heard that song, and he said it was about his dad. And me and my dad started patching things up right about that time. So that song off that album is very near and dear to me.
It's an amazing song, and it's an amazing. It was an amazing tour, Mr. Zero. You're pretty amazing too.
Well, thank you, Greg.
That was.
Do I get to come back?
Well, we'll talk about it. No, of course you can. Of course you can. You know, apart from some comments, we didn't get a whole lot of people actually asking questions. I think they just liked listening to you.
Or they're sleeping.
Well, they did stop. Oh, nope. Someone just, Chuck just wrote The Power of Music, talking about put it there if it weighs a ton, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. How wonderful. Once again, folks, go to MrZeros.com.
Yep.
And check out the store, check out his radio shows. If you're local here, or if not local, you can stream it, WDGY on Sunday mornings at 8.
And I got to tell you, folks, if you like what I had to say, I write for RosevillePatch.com. I have 156 articles on there, RosevillePatch.com.
That is fantastic. And yes, we're going to have Mr. Zero back on. It's just a matter of when, very soon, probably. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Greg.
It was awesome. We're going to be back tomorrow with Debbie Romero's. We're going to do one-question readings. Are we going to ask about Michael Nesmith? Who knows? We'll have to see. Everyone, have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.